Hello, everyone. Mm, since a lot of people don't know what's been going on for a long time right now, let me give you something about immunity. Because we're all talking about herd immunity, but yet fail to realize that there's such a thing to be explored first as individual immunity. Because genetically, we are not the same. And it has nothing to do with our outside physical makeup as much as it does the internal genetic operating system, which is the entire human body. Now, as someone who has had the particular virus about 6 times in all the variants possible, yes, in the last 2 years I've had the virus at least 6 times. Which variant I've never got tested, never will, and which is why, of course, I've not been injected. Now, to comprehend fully what I'm about to tell you is not something you get overnight. Do recognize, people, that I'm giving you something in a span of 20 or more minutes, which took me 4 years to figure out, day in, day out. And that, of course, was the bodybuilding industry. Now, for those of you who are immediately shutting off, it depends on the intent and the particular mindset you go into set any given sport. If it's to get accolade and recognition, then you'll be very likely disappointed, especially in the short term. And what really helped me got started on this set journey to really know myself, that was the only intent to see, to take how far I could take my physical body and everything else with the tools that I've had. And even in a minimum wage concept, you could still get it done. However, there are certain steps you must overcome. Especially nowadays, we think that, and this was before fasting, I was attempted to agree with that mindset, that food and drink, and meaning nutrition and optimal liquid intake, and a regimen that had a particular set time of beginning and end and intensity when getting into a physical exercise movement was the only ways to go. There I've mentioned 3, but there are a whole lot of inter moments, I would say, where I have had these methods questioned, not only by my surroundings but also individually. And this is the way I did it. Fasting definitely helps, especially for the Muslim community who was very much within the Ramadan, was insightfully very interesting to do. And even if you don't fully want to go into that, there's ways you can go about it, which is, number one, is to work out on an empty stomach. The first day might scare you, but as you go on, you will get a bit more hang of it. However, with that, I must warn you that between 4 days of doing that, my body was basically yelling at me for nutrients. And at this point, you've got to do everything intuitively. I always did that. I ate, drank, and worked out and had my rest moments intuitively. I also have my nutrition intuitively. Because your mind might tell you something, but what worked for one particular individual, especially those in the fitness industry you're watching on YouTube, may not work for you. But the only way for you to properly know is to do it, which is where the mind completely loses all necessity, because in the particular, and especially when it comes to knowing your health, not just your overall health, but also how to combat certain diseases that will, as we've all noticed, inherently come on your path, is to know your body optimally. And this comes with my second degree, is I have had a virus before. Not this particular one, but I was infected from a young child with the dengue virus, which I can tell you was pretty nasty. I've had it every year from the moment I was 14 till at least 28. Had it once every year. It skipped a year here and there, but it came back every once in a while. So this gave me also a clear indication personally, but also may collectively for those who have it know what to do at a particular moment and what not to do. One of the other things I've also learned is just as your body needs optimal nutrition and intensity in order to receive a particular set overall health or fitness goal, you also need to compensate that with a lot of amount of rest. And rest is something that we in Western society take very much for granted and don't cultivate and appreciate enough of it in order to make set headlines and to not only build up but also boost your immune system for the long term. Also, what we forget is a optimal variable nutrition and or diet. We in Western society have pretty much cultivated a way, a system to separate everything from valuable to non-valuable. We have done this with people, and we have also done that with what is profitable for our long-term and short-term fitness goals, but not really looking at optimal health and long-term accessibility and long-term productivity of the overall body. We tend to look at specific aspects for growth, but only focusing on the aesthetic and never looking at the internal growth that is needed to not only keep the body physically intact, but also keep the entire operating system that makes for all of this of us to function be working properly. And as soon as you mention anything about the spiritual intent behind each and everything you do, you get laughed and ridiculed at for being a nut and or conspiracy theorist. However, everything you do in this life is with intent. And so anything that goes beyond a pure intent, that includes a diet change, as we've seen with many vegans who were in it for the wrong reasons, ultimately ending up switching. To name a couple of few names, John Venus, amongst many other vegans who portrayed themselves to be all about the life and ultimately ended up only being about that money. And there's no other way to say it. So if this offends some people, good luck. But the truth always hurts, in more ways than one. Take it from someone who knows. Second of all, the separating of the nutrients and what is ultimately valuable for you in the long term and or not is entirely your responsibility and yours alone. No dietist or nutritionist should be held responsible for how you operate your body and use and cultivate it with the set tools that you've been given and or choose to cultivate. For example, I cannot say that I have an optimal good diet when I'm snacking on burgers every day of my life. And for those thinking that they can only eat off pasta and or one specific diet, all right, each and every day for no matter how many set years, notice that you're doing your body a great disservice, because variety is the spice of life, and so does with the variable nutrients and vitamins and minerals that your body could be missing out on because you not only have a one-track mind, but you also have a one-track meal system, which consists of pretty much the same bland food, which is something I learned pretty early on that was not the way, regardless of whether you're a vegetarian, vegan, meat eater, or anywhere in between, or any extremities thereof. Also, look at your vitamin and mineral intake. For example, and I'll give you a quick one. When I made the switch from eating chicken and fish to a full on vegan diet, I immediately recognized that I was holding out on some vitamins and nutrients. What were those? For me, in the long term, was calcium and magnesium. Now, you can go buy all the supplements in the world, but also notice, and this is another added dose I can give you with, most of these vitamin pills you buy at whatever drugstore are chemically based. And this has gone very negatively, and I'll give you another example used off television of a program in the Netherlands that was done a couple of years prior on the woman who overused vitamin B12 and ultimately ended up damaging her entire nervous system to the point where she was in constant pain. Why? Because she overused supplements that she did not need, and they were all chemically based. And anything that goes against the natural form of supplementation, which is an added extra of what your entire chemical makeup of your body already is producing on a natural basis, mix it with too many chemicals, you get an imbalance, which is also a way how to combat your symptoms more effectively, is to strike the imbalances and not necessarily the symptoms that come attached due to the cause of these imbalances. A long story short, you want to get to the problem, you want to solve the problem, you got to get to the root of the said problem. And usually it has nothing to do with other than a poor use of your knowledge of self when it comes to diet, nutrition, and optimal exercise, the amount of rest time, and of course, a relaxation time that comes with it, especially in a society where you're told you ought to be constantly on the grind, if not you are slacking or being left behind. Well, as we've seen, trying to catch up in certain places while sacrificing your optimal health has resulted into being stagnant in other aspects that were previously being overlooked by not only the current health association, but also the medical establishment and the lack of knowledge of what optimal nutrition can actually do for you other than these said chemical substances that were given in order to combat the symptoms of the imbalance rather than, as I've said earlier, conflicting with the imbalance itself. Focusing on the symptoms and not the cause of these imbalances. And I can say it in a lot of different other ways, but it comes to there, your body must be in constant flow. It must be constantly operate optimally, even when your body itself is not moving. And take it from someone who's done a little bit of both, I can accurately state that when your body is at optimal efficiency, even without moving, your body will still be functioning at 100%. If you know what and what not to do at a particular point in time. And I'll explain in another video why these particular things are very important and the minor details you might want to look into before continuing your self-knowledge journey, which is what I like to call it, a little bit further. So have yourself a good laugh, like, share, if you want, subscribe, but the fact that the knowledge is out there might help save a lot more people, because we all know what doesn't save people, and that is what we currently have. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care, much love, and see you all on the other side.